Shalom. First, giving honor and thanks to the Most High God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and thanking him for the coming of Prophet William Saunders Crowdy. Thanking God for our present-day leader in Israel, Chief Rabbi Phillip McNeil, grandfather Abraham. To the Rabbinical Council, the evangelists at large, the evangelists and elders of the house of Israel, and sons and daughters of grandfather Abraham, shalom. Our Passover scripture is taken from Leviticus chapter 5 and 20 and verse 8 and 20, which reads, I am the Lord your God, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. These words from the Most High must be taken personally by each of us. Think of a time when you were in bondage to someone or something. Your back was against the wall. You could not help yourself, and no one else could help you. You turned to prayer. Maybe your prayer was those oh so familiar words, just Lord, have mercy. And without you being able to explain how you got over, a shift came, and you were delivered from your bondage unto freedom by the hand of the Most High. You had a testimony. Words could not express your gratitude nor fully express what happened in your deliverance. That bondage was your Egypt, and the Most High brought you forth out of that land of Egypt. You see, Egypt is not necessarily a physical place. Egypt is also a state of mind that creates a condition of darkness. Egypt, from a spiritual standpoint, signifies the darkness of ignorance. Have you ever lived in the darkness of ignorance? Sure you have. We all have. And we can testify that sometimes that bondage was bitter and hard, just like the bondage of the children of Israel in Egypt. When the Most High freed us from our bondage, the declaration from Leviticus chapter 5 and verse 20 and chapter 5 and verse 20, verse 8 and 30 was the Most High clearly letting us know that I, the divine, brought you out of Egypt. I freed you from your bondage. Why? To give you the land of Canaan and to be your source of all good. Our Passover theme is our personal response to that Most High's declaration. Our response is, I have come out of Egypt to go back no more. Canaan land, my happy home. In essence, each of us is saying to the Most High, you opened the door for me to leave this bondage. And not only am I coming out through the door, I am never going back. I'm going to make Canaan land, the land you gave me, my happy home. But what does all of this mean to us today? What Egypt did the Most High free each of us from? And what does Canaan land, my happy home, truly means? To gain a deeper understanding of this, let us journey back to biblical times, to Egypt and Canaan land. Many of us believe that the journey to Canaan land began with Israel, but it did not. Let us go back to Genesis 11, where we meet Terah, Abraham's father. While Terah was in his homeland, Ur of the Chaldees, he had 3 sons, Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran died, and Terah embarked on a journey to Canaan land. Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 and 30 and 2 and 30 states, and Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came into Haran and dwelt there, and Terah died in Haran. Why did they leave Ur of the Chaldees to go to Canaan land? Did the Most High call Terah first to go to Canaan land? The Bible does not give an explanation as to why Terah took that journey. But what the Bible does say is that Terah, Abraham's father, reached the land of Haran, a land bearing the same name as his son that died, and Terah went no further. He stopped there with his family, dwelled there, and died there. What was Terah's and his family's lifestyle before he died? They were idol worshippers. Joshua 4:20 and verse 2 says, "And Joshua said unto all the people, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in old time, even Terah, the father of Abram, and the father of Nahor, and they served other gods." So their lifestyle was living in the darkness of ignorance to the Most High. They were idolaters, but the Most High always sends somebody. So the Most High called Abram, and in St. Charmaine's speech, or I should say Charmaine's speech, the Most High basically said to Abram, "Abram, your pop-pops didn't go. He could not move past the death of your brother Haran, so he stayed right there in the city called Haran and died there. But now I'm giving you the opportunity to go. I'm giving you the opportunity to be Big Papa. What you gonna do, Abram?" And Abram said, "Count me in." Genesis 12 and verse 1 states, "Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, and unto a land that I will show thee." Abram's response is recorded in Genesis chapter 12 and verse 5. It says, "And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came." Genesis chapter 13 and verse 12 also states, "Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain." The Most High told Abram to leave serving the idols of his fathers and the land where he dwelled, and come into a new state of mind, a strange land that the Most High will show him. And Abram obeyed faithfully. Many of us make the commitment to do the will of the Most High, but sometimes we deviate because the journey appears too weighty for us. Abram had those moments also. When he reached Canaan land, he camped in a place where there was a famine in the land, and Abram chose to go to Egypt to seek refuge from the famine. Genesis chapter 12 and verse 10 says, "And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there." I make reference to the scripture because I want you to note the term "down into Egypt" is used. Why? Because Abram went down into the darkness of ignorance in his choice to go into Egypt. You know the story. He went down into Egypt and instructed his wife Sarai to deceive the men of the land by claiming she was his sister and not his wife. This would prevent them from killing him to get her. That's what he thought. Now, due to her striking beauty, Pharaoh took her and welcomed her into his household. Abram's Egypt was being in bondage to the knowledge that his wife was with another man because of his doing. He went down into the darkness of ignorance, leaning onto his own understanding, taking matters into his own hands rather than trusting the Most High. Remember, Genesis chapter 12 and verse 2 outlined the divine promise to Abram. It states, "And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great." And when Abram got to Canaan land, the divine again told him in Genesis chapter 12 and verse 7, "Unto thy seed will I give this land." None of these promises were yet fulfilled. Abram had no children at this time, and he was not yet a great nation. But Abram was in the early stages of his journey to this strange land. So he left Canaan land, leaning onto his own understanding, and went down into Egypt, the darkness of ignorance. We cannot judge, condemn, or criticize Abram for his actions, because how often have we created our own Egypt because of our own fear, doubt, or not trusting the Most High enough to meekly wait and murmur not? Nevertheless, grace, mercy, and unconditional love are always afforded to those seeking a connection with the Most High. So Pharaoh's house was plagued to the point where he had to release Sarai and all the wealth Abraham had obtained while there, and he had to let them go. The Most High paved the way for Abraham to leave his self-imposed Egypt. When Genesis chapter 13 and verse 1 recorded Abraham's departure from Egypt, it is written in this manner: "And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had." I point out the words "up out of Egypt" to symbolize that Abram came up out of the darkness of ignorance and returned on his journey through Canaan land. I also point this out because Canaan land, from a spiritual perspective, symbolizes humility and receptivity. This is why Abram had to leave his father's house, the land of idolatry, to journey to a place where he could come to know the Most High and surrender all in a state of humility and receptivity to the will of the Most High. Thus the journey to a strange land, Canaan land. For Abraham knew nothing about being humble and receptive to the Most High. The only thing Abraham knew was idolatry, serving gods that could not help him. That is why he leaned to his own understanding at times on his journey. As Abraham continued his journey from the darkness of ignorance to Canaan land, the Most High told him that his name could not be Abram anymore. I believe one reason Abram's name was changed to Abraham is because Abram was known as the idol worshiper's son. But he was not that anymore. He was now on a journey to becoming the son of the Most High. So I believe his name was changed to show that he had been transformed by the renewing of his mind. His mind was being renewed from leaning onto his own understanding to becoming a faithful and obedient servant to the Most High. His faithfulness would not make him a father of many nations, and his faithfulness would make him a father of many nations, and in his faithfulness would all families of the earth be blessed, because he would be the living example of humility and receptivity to the Most High. Thus, Abram to Abraham. Abraham's humility and receptivity to the Most High was so great that when the Most High instructed him to sacrifice his son Isaac, Abraham willingly went forward in absolute obedience to the will of the Most High. Of course, we all know the story, and that it ended with Isaac's life being spared and the Most High providing a lamb for the sacrifice. This experience caused Abraham to gain a greater understanding of the Most High. He understood that the Most High would always be his source and would always provide for him. So Abraham left Egypt, the darkness of ignorance, to go back no more. He became a permanent resident of Canaan land, and in that state of humility and receptivity to the Most High, he was blessed beyond measure. Genesis chapter 4 and 20 and verse 1 tells us, "And Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things." Can you imagine being blessed in all things? Everything that you do is a blessing. Canaan land was Abraham's happy home, for there he remained until he died. So why did I take you all around the mulberry bush going over a story that you all already know? Because I want to make it clear that the journey to Canaan land, which is the journey to humility and receptivity, has a direct relationship with freedom from Egypt or the darkness of ignorance. Think back to when Israel went to Egypt. Genesis chapter 6 and 40 and verses 3 and 4 says, "I am God, the God of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt. I will go down with thee into Egypt, and will also surely bring thee up again." So when Israel went down into Egypt, they were prosperous there. They grew in numbers, they had a good life, and they were strong people. They were living as a righteous and holy people. They were a light to those who lived in the darkness of ignorance, evidenced by the love and respect all the Egyptians had for Joseph and his family. They were living according to Isaiah chapter 9 and 40 and verses 3 and 6, which say, "Thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified. I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth." But things changed. They turned from the Most High and assimilated in the Egyptian culture and became idol worshipers. Joshua 4 and 20 and verse 14 states, "Now therefore fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served in Egypt." So they were just like the Egyptian. They became just like the Egyptian, idol worshipers. It was during the time of their idolatry that Exodus chapter 1 and verse 8 tells us, "Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph." Of course the king did not know Joseph, because he could not see the righteousness and holiness of Joseph in the people. In Exodus chapter 1 and verse 9 to 11, we read the decree of the king. He stated, "The children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us afflict them with their burden." The children of Israel lived in the darkness of ignorance of their idolatry, which led to their bondage. And when they cried to the Most High, and the Most High answered their cry, where did the Most High send them when he freed them from Egypt? To Canaan land, the same place the divine sent Abraham. To serve the Most High and to be a light to the Gentiles, it is necessary to be humble and receptive to the leadership, guidance, and direction of the Most High. We must surrender to the will of the Most High. Thereby, the Most High took them out of their idolatry and sent them to Canaan land, where they could become humble and receptive to the will of the Most High. Let us consider a more recent Egyptian bondage. Deuteronomy chapter 8 and 20 states, "And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. If thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. Deuteronomy chapter 8 and 20 makes it clear that if we engage in idolatry, bondage in Egypt, or in the darkness of ignorance is the result. And this did happen. European slavery took place. This was a manifestation. And we cried to the Most High to deliver us. And the Most High sent Prophet William Saunders Crowdy. And where did the prophet take us? To Canaan land. And here we are still today in sweet Canaan land. Do you see the relationship? Idolatry leads to Egyptian bondage because it is the darkness of ignorance in which we live that causes us to serve other gods. And to overcome this darkness of ignorance, we must journey to Canaan land, to that place of humility and receptivity to the Most High. When we live in the darkness of ignorance to the Most High, we are engaged in idolatry because we put other things before the Most High. There is always a ransom to pay for idolatry, and that ransom is bondage. Aren't you tired of paying the ransom? I sure am. I'm going broke paying that ransom. All right, I need a break. So what are we going to do about it? It is time for the cycle to end. Abraham showed us, Israel showed us, and Prophet William Saunders Crowdy showed us. It is time for us to leave the physical Canaan land and enter the spiritual Canaan land of humility and receptivity to the Most High. Why? Because when we sacrifice leaning to our own understanding and we willingly and joyfully surrender to the will of the Most High, we are fully satisfied to be in Canaan land. We are joyful to be humble and receptive to the Most High, and Canaan land becomes our happy home. Do you know what happens when Canaan land is our happy home? Our journey to the promised land begins. Oh, you thought Canaan land was a promised land. Oh no, Canaan land is a stepping stone to the promised land. So what is the promised land? Come with me back to Deuteronomy chapter 8 and 20, which lays out the promised land. It states, "And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way and flee before thee 7 ways. The Lord shall establish thee an holy people unto himself, if thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God and walk in his ways. And all people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, and thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail. And thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. What a blessing. Israel, it is time to break the cycle. You see, we may have come out of Egypt, but if Egypt has not come out of us, we will keep going back. It is time for the shift. It is time to come out of Egypt and go back. No more. No more ransom. No more bondage. No more idolatry. It is time to make humility and receptivity, Canaan land, our happy home. Amen. This brings our Sabbath school session to a close. Thank you for your attention.